Attitude determines approach, and approach determines success or failure. If you have a wrong attitude, you're going to have a wrong approach. If your approach is wrong, you get rejected, not because your request was wrong, but because the approach was wrong. There are some people that they won't like just your tone in which you come to them. You can come to them with a spirit of accusation instead of a spirit of inquisition. It is one thing to say, well, I don't understand, is my bill actually correct here? That's inquisition. But it's like, you made a mistake on my bill, and I ain't paying it. You'd be surprised in the approach that is taken, just in the approach. What's the best approach to take? Wisdom is the thing that lets us know that. And wisdom is the skillful use of knowledge and understanding for successful living. That's all wisdom is. It is the skillful use of knowledge and understanding for successful living. See, wisdom does something. Knowledge knows what wisdom does. Wisdom is the skillful use of knowledge and understanding for successful living. Wisdom uses what it knows. There are some people that know everything. But they just don't use what they know. And that can strip you from being a wise person. You may be knowledgeable, but you are not wise until you use your knowledge and understanding to help produce achievement, victory, success in your life. Now I want to give you my 3 top ways of gaining wisdom. Number 1, ask God for wisdom. Ask God for it. James chapter 1 verse 5 through 8. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith with nothing doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. But ask God for wisdom. Just ask God for wisdom. The best place to begin, ask God for wisdom. You have to have an appetite for something before you can even ask God for it. Why would you ask God for something that you really didn't have an appetite for? You have to have an appetite for it. You've got to be hungry for wisdom, because that's what precipitates the asking of God. I hope you don't just go and say, okay, God, well, Bishop Ronald said I need to ask you for wisdom, so I guess, okay, I'm here, Lord, give me wisdom. No. You have to be hungry for it. You have to be hungry to say, God, I want to kill this child, but Lord, I need your wisdom. Because if you don't give me this wisdom, Lord, I promise you, God, something's going to happen that I'm going to regret and he's going to regret. Lord, I need your wisdom so I don't hurt somebody, because I'm going to boil some grits now. But you have to be hungry. You have to be hungry for it. When you're hungry to something, you're committed to it. You don't get discouraged the first time you don't get it. You see, uncommon results require uncommon commitment. Uncommon results require uncommon commitment. You got to be committed to that thing. You got to be committed to it. That shows that you're hungry. You show what you're hungry for by what you're committed to. Proverbs chapter 2 and verse 4 talks about seeking wisdom as though you are digging for silver. And it says that you search for it as though you're looking for hidden treasures. Like it's hidden from you. And he says you need to seek it, seek wisdom like you're seeking silver, like you're looking for lost money. It says you need to look for wisdom as though you are looking for a hidden treasure. And hidden treasure is normally buried. So you have to dig for it. You have to dig for it. Then I want you to notice Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6 and 7. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly. Now I want you to notice this, that God saves it for us, but he doesn't give it to us automatically. Did you notice that? It says for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. And notice verse 7, he stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He stores it up for us. He stores it up for us, but he waits for us to come to the storehouse in order to get it. And he's a shield of those who walk uprightly. He doesn't just give it to you automatically. He stores it up for you so that when you're ready for it, you come to him and then God will give it to you. So ask God for wisdom. Ask God for wisdom. That's the primary way that I believe that you get wisdom from God. Number 2, surround yourself with wise people. Surround yourself with wise people. Proverbs 13:20, one of my favorite scriptures. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Moses surrounded himself with a wise man, Jethro, his father-in-law. He was a priest of Midian. And he gave Moses wisdom because Moses, even though he was Moses was doing everything himself. And Jethro looked at him one day and he says, Moses, what you're doing is not good. He says, you're going to burn yourself out. He said, I want you to take 70 elders, 70 folks here, and commission them in the sight of all of these people and take some of the honor that's on you and put it on them so they can help you do this because you're going to kill yourself. Now, it might have been a little selfishly motivated because you have to realize Moses was married to his daughter. And I guess he said, you're standing down there judging people and you got my daughter over here, but my grandchild at home by themselves and you're never home. He says, Moses, what you're doing is not good. It was the wisdom of Jethro that caused Moses to change his strategy as to how he led that large number of children of Israel coming out of Egypt. He surrounded himself with Jethro. Joshua surrounded himself with Moses. Elisha surrounded himself with Elijah. Timothy surrounded himself with Paul. But my question to you is, who are you surrounding yourself with that is a source of wisdom to you? He who walks with wise men will be wise. It didn't say that you had to be wise initially. You just have to have enough sense to walk with somebody who's got some sense. And if you get around them and learn to keep your mouth closed, because there's a reason that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can do twice as much as we do. And sometimes you'll be surprised how a young person who knows a little, just a fingernail's worth of knowledge, can get around somebody who's got loads of stuff in them, and they run their mouth the whole time, and they can't even draw from the vessel who has so much in them to be able to pour into them because they think they know everything. And so we have to always be teachable. Surround yourself with good people. And one way that you can surround yourself with wise people is to read books that are written by wise people, even people who are dead. Because wisdom doesn't go out of style if it's based on truth. It doesn't go out of style. You can be mentored from afar from someone. Your life is dramatically impacted by the books that you read, by the people that you meet, and by the experiences that you have. And that brings us to the third way that I believe is one of the primary ways that we get wisdom, is by reflecting on your experiences. Reflect on your experiences. If you really want to get wisdom, reflect on your experiences. Reflect on your experiences. Have you ever seen people that have bad things to happen to them in their life? I mean, really bad things to happen to them in their life, and then they don't learn from it. They just get up as though they never fail, instead of getting up and reflecting to say, now what caused me to fall here? Maybe there's something in my rug here that I need to have glued down, because this is my 3rd time tripping over this. Now, until you stop and figure that out. My dad was walking to the house one time, and we had a little baby crib that was out there, a little sleeper, some kind of a thing. He was barefooted, as he often was, and caught his toe on one of those things and broke his toe. And, you know, when you have a painful experience, it causes you to get wisdom. And, you know, my dad, after that, you know, he made sure that if he had to get up in the night, that there was going to be a clear path to the bathroom. You know, now that didn't just, I mean, he didn't read that in a book. Out of reflecting on his experience, he wanted to learn from what caused him pain. He learned from what caused him pain. But you will be surprised at the number of people who go through painful experience and come out of it and don't learn a thing. Because they jump in a relationship with this person who winds up hurting them, manipulating them, abusing them, and leaving them broke, busted, and disgusted. And they'll hop into another relationship with a different face, but the same character, does the same thing, because they never stop to analyze, to say, what in the world is wrong with me to be drawn or attracted to this person? Am I just drawn to cute people who have no character? I mean, what's wrong with me to stop? And see, you can't stop the insanity. You can't stop the insanity until you take time to reflect on the experience, because reflection turns experience into insight. Reflection turns experience into insight. Reflection. And we as people, our lives are so packed and so busy that we don't have sufficient time to reflect. And we keep living life forwardly without proper time to reflect. We have to spend time to reflect. Life can only be lived forward, but it can only be understood backward. Winston Churchill said that the farther back that we are able to look, the farther ahead that we're able to see. And that's why reflection is so important. If you have an experience, learn from your experience, grow from your experience. Let that experience become your platform of what God wants to do in your life. So use that. Reflection turns experience into insight, which leads to wisdom. It leads to wisdom. Proverbs 6:6, notice it says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." See, the sluggard was told to go and observe. You know what a sluggard is? A lazy person. It is an indolent person. Indolent. Indolent means avoiding pain. So sluggards, it's not that they don't do anything, they just don't do anything that causes pain. See, they'll come to you if you're having a eating function at your house. But ask them to come to your house and help you clean up something. See, that causes pain. They're not coming to your cleaning party, but they'll come to the picnic and the barbecue. That's a sluggard. But you see, they were told, the sluggard was told to go and observe the experience of the ant. Study her ways, he said, and gain wisdom from her. Go and study. Who works and stores up while it was summer, because they knew the winter was coming. And that's the ant had the diligence. And the scripture says, sluggard, go and observe, study, consider, reflect on the experience of what this ant is doing and learn some sense. And that tells us a huge thing, that you can learn huge lessons from little things and sometimes little people. Your children can teach you incredible lessons. But our experiences, they can help to actually put the fear of God in us. And you know, Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10 says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Your experiences can put the fear of God in you. You know, the old folks used to say, God won't make you do right, but he sure will make you wish you had done right. And let me say this to you, that the fastest way to gain leadership and influence is to solve problems. On your job, in any organization, the fastest way to gain leadership and influence is to solve problems, Now I want to look at some practical problem-solving strategies here. Here's number one: maintain the right perspective. Maintain the right perspective. In other words, I want to say to you, calm down. Just calm down. Get control of yourself before you try to get control of the situation. Maintain the right perspective. You have to just calm yourself down. I mean, I've been on so many airplanes, and whenever they're doing the safety demonstration, they will tell you in the event of an emergency, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling. And first, secure your own mask over your mouth and nose before assisting others. Now, I wonder why they tell you to put your own mask on so you can get some oxygen to you, because if you're trying to help somebody else and you're running out of oxygen, you can't think straight. And you do crazy stuff, and it's like you can't help anybody until you first help yourself. It says when the emergency comes, you got to have clarity of your own thoughts, get some oxygen going to your brain so that you can think clearly and then be able to do something to help someone else. Put yours on first and then assist others around you before attempting to assist others. Put yours on first. But you see, in desperate times, much more than anything else, we need perspective. You need perspective. They will tell you in the event of an emergency, one of the first things that they tell you, remain calm. You know why? Because when you freak out, you can't think. You get paralyzed. You just freeze. You just freak out. You can't do anything. It paralyzes you. It paralyzes you. So perspective, you have to get perspective. Maintain the right perspective. Here's what I want you to understand. Perspective brings calm. Perspective brings calm. It brings calm. Calm leads to clear thinking. When you settle down, when you calm down, that's why they said breathe or count to 10 or whatever, trying to give you time to calm yourself down. Calm down. Perspective brings calm. Calm leads to clear thinking. Clear thinking yields new ideas. Clear thinking yields new ideas. When your mind is clear, when your mind is fresh, you'll be surprised how great ideas can come to you. And then ideas produce the bloom of an answer. Ideas, they produce the bloom of an answer. Perspective brings calm. Calm leads to clear thinking. Clear thinking yields new ideas, and ideas produce the bloom of an answer. So keep your head and your heart clear, because perspective can just as easily be lost as it can be found. And remember this, that your outlook determines your outcome. So have the right outlook. Have the right outlook on life. Don't get negative. Your outlook determines your outcome. Oftentimes you have to do research in order to put things in their proper perspective for you. Because you can think that this is just so terrible, but if you realize that I'm not the only one that has happened to, I mean, can you imagine what happened to people in the economic downturn of 2008? And when, you were upside down in your mortgages, and this was happening and that was happening. And sometimes if, when it's happening to you, you're just upset. It's like the whole system is against me. You and how many other 100,000 people? If you do the research, you'll realize this is not just me. The bottom has fallen out of the economy here. This is not just me. A bubble has burst. And everybody who was in this bubble with me was affected by it. But we are so engrossed by our own problems that we lose perspective. And that's why I said, if you're going to problem solve, you have to get perspective. So you got to do some research. Research creates a shared window of reality. It creates a shared window of reality. I can't even problem solve with you until we first do some research, because when I do the research, the facts that come out is not my opinion and is not your opinion. This is reality. It is what it is. So it gives us a shared window. It says, okay, listen, here's the reality. We're losing money. Here's the reality. We're broke. You have to have a reality with a shared reality, a window of reality here. But now here's the process of what research initiates for us. Number one is discovery. Discovery. You research and you explore possibilities. Research and explore possibilities. That's what discovery is about. You have to discover some things. You don't come out with a hit until you've gone through the discovery process. Then the second one is design. Design. You put it on paper. The concepts that are in your mind, put it on paper. Put it on paper. Design has to be put on paper. It has to be written. It has to be recorded somewhere outside of your head. Outside of your head. When we were building the epicenter, this thing started as an idea in my mind. But I had to talk it over with architects so that I could get the idea that was in my mind on paper or on a CAD drive. I had to have a visual. I needed to see what I was thinking. So you have to discover first, and then you design. Then you design. Discover what's out there, and then you design. If you don't do the discovery work, you'll build a design that's impractical. You'll build a design that looks pretty, but it won't work. You build a design that is faulty because you haven't done the discovery work. And then the third thing is you do it. You build it. You discover, you design, and then you do. It's a process. You research, discover, you go through the discovery phase, then the design, then do. Discovery, design, do. So that's all a part of just having the right perspective, having the right perspective. If you're going to create something new, you want to create a new sound in the music, discover what's already out here. Because the last thing that they want is everything that everybody's doing now. Maybe you need to reach back and get something in public domain that is so old that you don't have to pay royalties on it. Put a twist to it. Find something. If you're sounding just like everybody else, they're looking for somebody who's got a unique sound. You got to discover what's already out there, or else you'll give something that nobody else wants. They won't even recognize. You'll get lost in the sea of all of this other stuff. But there's got to come something. They're looking for uniqueness. So you have to discover, listen, everybody's got the same stuff. You know, this is all the same. Nobody remembers the same. But if you have somebody that comes that's unique, that's standing out, that person will get remembered. So you have to discover what's there. Discover what's already available before you even try to discover something that's new. Discover what's already there. Do your research. That's the discovery. Then you design something based on your research. You design, and then you do it. Discover, design, do it. That's just step one. And all of my time is almost gone. Oh, wow. Can I give you, I've got a couple of minutes to do number two. Here's number two, identify the problem. Identify the problem. Have you ever watched somebody approach you in the wrong way and then you ask them, what's your problem? Have you discovered that a doctor cannot prescribe a cure if he or she cannot diagnose and identify the problem? Nobody can help you if they can't identify your problem. I mean, you deal with people and they say, I don't know what your problem is. The moment they tell you that, when moment you hear that, you know immediately this person can't help me. If they said, I don't know what your problem is, you have to identify the problem. Identify the problem. Clearly define the problem, what it is and what it is not. Clearly define the problem, what it is and what it is not. A problem well defined is a problem half solved, is what Charles Kettering said. He was a discoverer. But a problem well defined is a problem half solved. And when the problem is a person, is it a competence issue or an attitude issue? If the problem is a person, is it a competence issue or is it an attitude issue? If a person says, I can't, that's a competence issue. If they say, I won't, that's an attitude issue. But here's the reason that I say that you must identify the problem. You must define the problem, identify that problem, because you can't expect to win unless you know why you lose. You can't expect to win unless you know why you lose. I've met people who've said to me, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And if you don't know what you're doing wrong, you can't straighten it out. You can't correct it, and nobody else can help you to correct it. That's why you have to research. That's why you have to analyze. That's why you have to diagnose the problem. They've gotten sophisticated now with our automobiles. They hook them up to a machine and it runs diagnostics on your engine. It's running diagnostics because they can't fix your car if they can't tell you what's wrong with it. And you can have symptoms going on in your body, and doctors can run tests and they'll say, you know what, we didn't find anything wrong, but you feel something. You know something is wrong. You know something is wrong. Just because they didn't find it doesn't mean that nothing is wrong. It means they can't help you until they're able to diagnose it. Until they're able to diagnose it. Because I remember one time we had a leak that came through, and I thought that that's where the problem was. But the thing was coming down from another place. There was another leak from the roof that was then traveling down something other place, and then it manifested there at that spot. And I thought that where it manifested was the source. Well, where it manifests is not always the source. That's why you have to diagnose something. You can have a bad attitude and this thing is manifesting here, but the issue is that this happened before you ever got there, and it wasn't even about this. And you're trying to fix this, but that's not the source. You can't fix a problem until you go to the source. You got to go to the source of it in order to fix it. You have to go to the source in order to fix it. And so I've learned that where the problem shows up is not necessarily the true source of the problem. And then you have people, you know, like the Bob principle, that if John has a problem with Bob, and if Michael has a problem with Bob, and if Mary has a problem with Bob, Bob is the problem. That's the Bob principle. But here's the secret, is that the power to define is the power to determine destiny. The power to define is the power to determine destiny. The power to define is the power to determine destiny. You have to define the problem. Here is our problem here. Because you don't even know what to work on to isolate it. You have to always isolate the problem. You have to isolate it. I don't care if it's a mathematical solution, you have to isolate the problem. You want to create that equation so that X is on a side by itself. Always isolate the problem. That's why you have to eventually separate the tare from the wheat. Not immediately, because you can't solve it if you take it away immediately. You're going to hurt something that's good and uproot something that's good. Well, that's 2. I've got 10 to teach you. That means part 2. Will you come back for part 2? We're going to get into some heavy meat for part 2.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.